If you are a shuffle dancer looking for lower impact ways to do shuffle dance, maybe the jumping feels a little bit difficult for you, or maybe you simply just need more time to breathe, take a rest, catch your breath, and relax your muscles during your freestyle, this little mini series is going to be exactly what you need. It is called the Low Impact Series. My name's Alex. I'm the founder of Shuffle Shred, and I'm going to be giving you so many different ways that you can either take the moves that you already know and love about shuffle dance and make them lower impact by adjusting your technique. That's what we're going to focus on today. But there's also going to be 2 more videos coming after this one where you can also focus on different moves that you can add to your shuffle dance in order for it to be lower impact. That's going to be video 2. And then video 3 is going to be ways that you can manipulate moves that you already know to be more lower impact by actually changing parts of the move. So today we are going to start with technique. This is so crucial and so important for you to know. Instead of just going and removing a shuffle dance move because it feels too high impact, I really encourage you to look at ways that you can change the technique and the way you're approaching this movement in order to be lower impact instead. We're gonna focus on 3 major things today: the running man, the T-step, and micro bouncing. That's gonna be kind of a combo. Not a literal combo, but like I'm gonna combine both of those elements. And then we're gonna focus on Charleston as well, okay? So with your running man, this is probably the biggest one where people are like, I don't know how to make this more lower impact. When people think running man, I think these are the things that they envision. And it's not that these things are wrong, but it's not the only right way. So people envision with their running man really high knees. They picture a stomp, right? Like people really believe, we're gonna myth bust this, that you have to really stomp that foot down. And then they also envision a lot of hopping, right? So naturally, it seems like this is going to be really difficult. But we need to look at how we can modify the technique of the running man. Number 1, so that you don't need to stomp, because you actually don't. Number 2, so that it can be a little bit lower impact and you can be able to have more of a chill running man that doesn't, maybe hurt your joints, or it doesn't feel super like hard to do continuously because it takes so much energy, etc. So we're gonna really modify that to start. So the first thing I want you to think of, we're gonna look at the 2 elements of running man. We have our perch position, and then we have our open position, or our triangle. I call them triangle flamingo, so I'll interchange with those terms. So when we're starting in our perch, yes, you have to think of like what you want to achieve with your running man. If you're trying to go for something that's lower impact, instead of having this really high knee, my recommendation is actually drop the knee down. Immediately, there's 2 things that are going to happen here. Number 1, you're not going to have to drive that knee as hard, as far, as aggressively when you pull up into your perch if you're only pulling up to a small perch. So think of the knee coming out in front of you, the shin still being in front. We don't want any tucked in shins here, but the foot can actually stay pretty close to the ground. We don't have to drive this knee all the way up, okay? That's number 1. Number 2, this is where most people, I don't want to use the word get it wrong, but this is where most people believe that the running man is just like not doable for them. And it's when you actually drop down into that triangle, so many people are trying to stomp, right? They're stomping and they're like hopping. And what we really need to remember is that gravity is on our side here. So when you are in this position, even if you had a higher knee in your running man, when you are in this perch position, all you need to do in order for this to become lower impact, number 1, is to let gravity take you. Stop trying to jump yourself down. Stop trying to slam your foot on the floor, and think more about sliding out your back foot and simply dropping your weight down the same way you do when you walk, right? As soon as I walk forward, my weight is going to shift evenly, give or take, between my 2 feet. Gravity did its thing as my foot went down. I'm going to pull up and the cycle repeats. So you want to think less about slamming that foot down or stomping, and you want to think more about just dropping your weight. Now notice when I'm in this position, so number one, I talked about the sliding of the base leg. So when the base leg becomes the back leg in your running man, you don't have to hop it down. I find a lot of beginner shufflers start by hopping because it's more helpful to just kind of get that momentum, get the bounce groove of shuffling. But in order to have a more smooth running man, a more gentle running man, and of course a more lower impact running man, instead of hopping into our open position, you're just gonna slide this leg slightly behind you and let gravity take you down. Notice that in this position, I'm not spread super wide either. My legs are not in this deep lunge. I'm basically like, if I were to turn center exactly where I am, I'm like just past hip width apart, right? I'm probably just past shoulder width apart. So you can actually keep that running man a lot smaller, which immediately is gonna make it lower impact, but it's also gonna make it so much better when you go to pull up into your perch, because now I'm not trying to pull up from like all the way out here, and immediately I can keep it a bit more chill. Now we can't remove, like in order to go from this position to this elevated perch position, we do have to have some sort of hop or bounce. But remember, we wanna just think of sliding. So if you land in nice bent knees here, keeping it small, gravity just did its thing, and this front leg is ready to, become the base leg, and we're gonna pick up my back leg here, I want you to just slide this foot underneath you, right? We're gonna let gravity take its thing we're gonna let gravity do its thing, take its course. I just combined two things. While we slide out the back leg, we're gonna slide the front leg back, right? So this is what your running man turns out to be. And there's literally nothing wrong with this, especially if you're someone who really wants to shuffle, but the running man feels too aggressive normally. This is a great way to start. This is also great technique. There's obviously a lot of really small nuances that go into good technique of the running man. So this is just, believe it or not, a little piece of the puzzle here, but I just want you to get thinking and get creative of how you can still do the running man in its purest form with a lower impact variation. So that's your first one to try. Okay, moving on, our second one is going to be our T-step. Now a T-step by nature is lower impact, right? We don't have any jumping or hopping. The base leg is staying really nice and grounded. The foot is flat on the floor, and the action foot is simply picking different spots, tapping and elevating, right? So T-step in itself is a low impact movement. I'm sure you've already realized that at this point. But one movement that is in the T-step family that a lot of people stay away from because they think it's too high impact is the micro bounce. Now the micro bounce is a different type of technique where you can combine it with your pivoting foot, or you can keep the foot straight and simply hopping and dragging your body back. But what a lot of people do that makes this very aggressive, I guess, which also kind of hinders the technique of the micro bounce. So this is like two things in one, is that people will literally on the base leg, it doesn't matter which leg is the base right now or if I'm backwards to you, but they're like hopping, right? Like that foot is as if they're jump rope, right? They're hopping backward. The reason this is an issue, number one, when we actually think of a micro bounce, we want to look like we're sliding across the floor. We don't want to have these big changes in levels. And number two, the other thing, it brings back that hop, which might feel a little bit difficult, especially on one leg if you're trying to be lower impact. So my recommendation, this is micro bounce. I call it micro drag for this reason, even though the correct term we say is micro bounce. But I want you to think of dragging your body back rather than hopping it back or bouncing it back. The bounce, instead of coming from your foot and thinking that you're like bouncing on the floor like you're a human basketball, I want you to think of the foot staying stuck to the floor. I'm gonna use this leg, that way it's closest to you so you can see what my foot is doing. I want you to think of your foot staying stuck to the floor and as if someone is yanking from behind your heel and you're trying to like, whoa, catch yourself, okay? So from this point, the bounce actually happens in the knee. So we still have that bounce element, but the bounce is happening from the knee And you're staying nice and grounded here, slight hinge forward at the hips. That way your larger muscles are turning on. So just from those 2-3 bounces I did, my quads have turned on, which immediately is strengthening. It's immediately taking a lot of the load off of my ankles and off of my knees. Now, I'm no physio, I'm no body therapist professional, but I do know that as soon as your larger muscles turn on, it makes everything work together so much more seamlessly, with so much more efficiency. Not only is your micro bounce going to look better, but it's also going to feel better too. So what I recommend, you can either start with 2 feet, maybe start with 2 feet and then work towards 1, but same thing, just imagine someone kind of like yanking you from behind, keeping those knees bent, right? Then when you go to 1 foot, nice and small, literally micro. And then when you add the other tapping foot on every second bounce, you can choose your taps. Now our last one for today is our Charleston. We're getting into cutting shapes fundamentals here. Your Charleston by nature actually is pretty low impact. When we think of like true 1920s Charleston, they're not doing a ton of hopping around. Yes, there are variations and there are reasons why they might do that, but very frequently the feet are just pivoting in and out on the floor, right? The same way they do in our T-step. One leg's elevating and dropping and 1 foot is pivoting and they alternate. When we take this and put it into cutting shapes, we often add an extra bounce groove to it. I personally love to do this in my flow, but I can understand how it might not be great if you're trying to go lower impact. So when we hop it, it tends to look like this, right? So now there's immediately lots of extra bouncing happening. So if you would like to remove that extra bouncing and keep it lower impact, you're gonna go back to a more standard variation of this Charleston. You're gonna stay nice and bent in the knees. You're gonna shift the weight onto the toes and mainly just focus on, I was gonna say crossing, but I'm not in that position yet. Crossing, staying nice and grounded here, and letting the pivot control your movement. So from this point, I'm gonna pick up my back leg, in this case, into my, I call this broken flamingo, but it's basically just a perch variation, and you're gonna drop down, right? So we can see that I'm staying lower. Let me back up because I'm probably out of frame. You can see that I'm staying lower here. I'm not actually bouncing. The internal and external rotation of the hips, knees, and ankles is what's carrying me into my travel. You'll probably have to travel with this. It's very hard to stay on this spot unless you're adding the bounce. But these are the very small ways that you can adapt the Charleston and all of these other moves that we have talked about to be more impact friendly. All right, that's all I got for you today. I hope that this was helpful for how to take moves that you already know and love and not feel like you have to throw them in the garbage or completely make variations of them in order to do them. Start with this. See how this feels on your body. See if this feels more doable. Everyone's body is going to be different. So someone might truly need to just do a total variation of one of these movements. Like maybe they need to go that step further, and that's totally okay. But I never want incorrect technique to be the reason why you can't do a move. So I really want to make this as accessible as possible. So if this was helpful, drop a comment. Let me know which of these movements you're most excited to try or which one gave you a little bit more of like a mind blown moment. And then stay tuned for the next video where I'm going to give you 4 more movements that you can do in your shuffle dance. Some are shuffle dance related and some are just like really fun grooves that you can add so that you can have low impact shuffling. If you want to see more videos like these, comment, share, like, subscribe, and let me know what you want to see more of and if this series was helpful. As a reminder, I'm Alex from Shuffle Shred, and I teach you how to be a more powerful, confident, and unique shuffler. And now I also teach you how to do it a little lower impact if that's what you need. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you in the next video.